The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, my name is Mark Deegan, Director of Corporate Marketing with ColorID. Thank you for taking the time to visit with David and I as we kick off part one of our year-end roundup webinar titled Reviewing Your Card Issuance and Identity Management Options. Please note part two, titled Understanding All Your Mobile Credential Options, will be held this Thursday, and you do need to register for that separately. Registration can be located at colorid.com. Our Director of Product Management, David Stahlsmith, will be tackling both presentations this week, and I implore you to be curious and active throughout the presentations. Submit any questions through the Q&A box, and we will cover those at the appropriate time. We will be recording and sharing a link after the series concludes on Thursday. A link will be included in that follow-up email. Like all companies over the past year and a half, we've had to rely heavily on virtual meetings and presentations to connect and share with our customers. If you missed out on any of the earlier webinars this year, or just want a refresher on a past event, check out the ColorID YouTube channel. We've been busy uploading a lot of good content. And if you hit that subscribe button to the channel, you'll be notified on any new content uploaded in the future. That's all I have for now. David, it's all yours.
Good afternoon. Thanks a lot, Mark. Thank you for imploring our audience to get engaged and be excited about this. So card issuance and identity management, kind of, we make cards, we manage identities. What's that all about? We're going to try to tackle some of that today and talk about some products that will help fulfill some gaps in those areas. But first, usually at the top of these presentations, I address trends. What's going on? What's going on in card offices? And the trends are what we at ColorID hear, what we discuss, what we hear from our customers and other people in the higher ed community. And of course, top of the list, IDWorks is exiting the stage. I think everybody knows that. It's done its service, it's performed admirably. Exit stage right pretty soon. Another thing that we didn't necessarily expect, but I guess it's not surprising, is 2020, 2021 is the year a lot of people decided to move to a new role, move to a new location, or just leave the card office. And so we have talked to a lot of folks that are new in card offices where the personnel had been very steady for a long time. Another thing that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, remote card issuance, there was some interest in that, but nothing like there has been in the last 2 years. The other thing is the ONECARD systems, your integrators, are offering ID production upgrades. I think about every school we've talked to, oh yeah, have you talked to your ONECARD system about that? Oh yeah, they've been here. And they're usually talking about Instant ID, which was formerly known as True Credential. You would think possibly that's the natural successor to IDWorks, but maybe not. So otherwise, outside of that, there are a lot of other cloud-based ID and other types of products that schools are now using that until 2 years ago they didn't even know existed. When we say, are you thinking of going mobile, pretty much, or now the conversation is, well, we need to upgrade our printers, but we're thinking of going mobile pretty soon. And so we're not quite sure. Okay, well, hang on, get out the duct tape. And then IT departments are moving data and applications to the cloud 3, 4, 5 years ago. Would you be interested in a cloud solution? Oh no, we keep everything on our campus, in our house. We store and manage everything right here. And boom, 3 years later, cloud, all cloud. And the last thing that's a trend and just a general fact is that universities are very complex systems. Every institution is unique. So as I go through what we're talking about today, there is no one size fits all for everybody. And that's why at ColorID, whenever we're talking to an institution about their ID production, how they want to manage identities, it's a real conversation. What are you doing now? what don't you like? Where do you want to go? And how can we help you get where you need to go? So that's sort of what I've patterned this on is a conversation I would have with the university, except it's going to look like a PowerPoint with a guy talking. So starting off, desktop ID card systems, this is IDWorks and Assure ID and other ID software. They're pretty basic, but they worked and do work really well. You connect them to a database, you can design the templates, you can store the templates or the projects, and you can print your cards. When it comes to managing the connections to the other systems, that's usually done from the database that the ID software connects to. You think, oh, we're connected to the access controller. Well, no, actually you're not. Your IDWorks is connected to your card production database, and then more than likely it is connected to another system that's handling those other connections. The limitations are obvious. It didn't keep the software from doing its job well. It's just that as needs have grown, people began to notice printers are connected to individual workstations, kind of like the picture there. Then in the last several years, with Windows 10 especially, and now 11, Windows updates and the maintenance for that can break stuff. Drivers for printers, cameras, things worked yesterday. We had an update, we think, last night. They don't work today. Desktop software. So anyway, so sorry, my headset just told me something. Speaking of Windows, so no support for additional credentials. So you could print a card, but if you needed to issue more than one card for a user, sometimes that couldn't handle that. Limited connectivity to data, because it's usually just that one database. Reporting was pretty challenging and limited. You maybe were able to read your contactless card in the printer or encode it, but a lot of times that was limited, and it didn't work with certain printers. Also, if you have contractors, visitors, temporary people coming through your system, it's hard to manage them if they're not in that database of record. How do you do that? And then there's certainly, with desktop software, no way that the end users, the people who carry cards, could interact with your system except through other channels. So with all of those gaps, the ONECARD systems, the integrators stepped in and they started plugging holes. And so they kind of became the de facto ID management systems, and just like the picture shows here. So your card printer connected to your workstation with the ID software on it, which connected to the ONECARD system, and then it sent the data to all the places on campus that needed it. But ONECARD systems, they have a lot to do, and a lot of it has to do with financial transactions, keeping up with point of sale, other, all these new mobile apps for ordering and all the crazy stuff going on that has just deluged campuses. So they often would have kind of limited services around physical identity and how the cards are used. They can't support everything, so they choose what they're going to support in terms of other applications, and their integration pipelines are very full. So you might hit some limitations there. For all that the ONECARD systems do, they don't do everything. On the other side of it, like I said, just in the month of November, I really have heard all 7 of these comments during phone calls with universities about their ONECARD systems. And whether it's the ID production software or the ONECARD system, our reports are very limited. We need to get more information out of our system. Who managed the creating a card? When was it issued? Was it reissued? A lot of that is hard to get out of these systems themselves, or to get custom type of reports. Collecting contactless card numbers in line automatically is a challenge for a lot of systems. Can't generate random numbers for mag stripes. We have to upload a file, store it in a table. It has to, we have a script that runs. How do we manage that? Do we have any alternatives? Can't print cards for visitors that aren't in the database, because we're not going to add all those contractors to our database for meal plans. It just doesn't make sense. Recent ONECARD update was big and expensive. We hear that a lot. We have an update coming in 2 months, so we're all getting ready for it. It's going to shut us down for a couple of weeks, so we're going to do it. It's just a big deal when you have to. It's an on-prem system and you have to update it. Adding mobile option is all or nothing and too expensive. This has been out there for a few years. It's just the way largely that Apple has managed the rollout of mobile IDs, but they come through the ONECARD integrators. And then the other thing is it's really hard sometimes to connect directly to campus systems in real time. So like I said, I've heard all of these on the phone from higher education institutions in just the last month. So, nothing's perfect. There are gaps. Maybe we'll talk about some things that could help you fill some of those gaps at your institution. The new thing right now, like I said before, cloud platforms. These are cloud-based systems, often hosted in Amazon Web Services or Azure. So there's no infrastructure at the institution. There are no servers necessarily on-prem. And the other side of it is, because it's in the cloud and there are kind of unlimited resources, hopefully failover, something fails, it rolls over onto other machines. And if all of a sudden demand doubles, the hardware is there, it can handle it. Cloud applications can be fast to deploy, and the automatic updates just happen in the cloud. All of this, of course, is less burden on your local IT staff, because your local database admins are employees. How many times we've been on site at a university and we're talking to the IT people, and their one job is to maintain either the campus card system, to support the ID card production database. It's not small stuff. A full employee at a university is a large expense. There's always something for them to do. But the cloud offers an alternative to that. Also, no local updates or maintenance, because it's all in the cloud. The other nice thing about cloud services is they offer APIs, application programming interfaces, REST, SOAP, a number of different ways that they can connect to other applications that have APIs, which is a lot of the newer solutions. If you're bringing on new cloud-based solutions and you need to connect your ID system to them, APIs can often be the way to go. They provide real-time data connections. They have limited requirements for clients. Sometimes, there's no client often. It's just one cloud talking to another in a very specified and secure protocol. So no scheduled batches necessarily. They can sync, and only the new data travels between the two databases. And then the other nice thing about this is it makes it easier to plug in some new solutions or technologies as you need. So, it's not like you have to put somebody on site for a week working with the SDK to integrate with a certain solution. Then you find out in 2 years it's not doing what you want. Now you have to replace that with APIs. The connection is a lot like the picture here. You just plug it in. Now, obviously, nothing is quite that easy, but compared to integrating SDKs, it is kind of true. I'd like to take a moment here just to discuss the various terminologies. True cloud, whatever language you want to use for that. This means the application was designed for cloud architecture. It was probably built in Amazon Web Services or Azure or one of the other cloud system providers. It's hosted, the database is hosted and managed by the application maker. So that's true cloud. It was built in the cloud. A lot of times you'll hear people refer to things, because they can get to them through a browser, as cloud. But the newer distinction is that these are not really cloud applications if they're only coming through a browser, but they're starting on-prem. So that's not necessarily cloud. You can say, well, yeah, we handle it like a cloud on-prem. Essentially, it's a software being served through a web server, and you can get to it from a browser, but you have to maintain the hardware that application and database sit on, and the connections to it. So browser-based is not necessarily true cloud. Now, you may have to have local client software depending on what you're doing with your hardware. So cloud doesn't necessarily operate with no local resources, but it certainly reduces those. So having defined cloud and browser-based, let's go to managing identities. So what would you like your system to do? And so this is kind of a list of things people have shown interest in as we've talked to them over the last few years. User self-service. Is there a way that people can upload their own photos and we can approve them? Yeah, absolutely. And everybody, you know, you're all familiar, and we'll discuss one of those solutions today. Identity verification and proofing. This is a pretty hot topic with remote ID issuance. We're mailing out cards to people, and we're not quite sure how, you know, we're not so sure if they're the right person we're mailing it to. We want to make sure the card gets into the hands of the right people. And if we're issuing, and this isn't too often yet, but if we're issuing a digital ID, it's being sent to a phone, but is it the right phone? So identity verification and proofing is becoming a hot topic. Now, requesting new card or mobile credential through a self-service portal is kind of a big deal. I lost my card. I'd like to request a new one. I'd like to put it on hold. You know, those, if you can put those out at the self-service level, that saves people a trip into the office and saves time at the office desk. Also, access level requests are important. You know, you're in one residence hall and then you get moved, and you need to request access to the new residence hall because maybe it just didn't happen automatically for you. Can you handle that through a self-service portal? Remote issuance, I talked about this a moment ago. It has become, it's not new, but it has certainly become an important feature for card offices because people are distributed or at home. They're not, everybody's not just coming to the card office anymore. Maybe your institution has global locations and you want to centrally manage at least a portion of your identity issuance across those global landscapes. And then maybe you want to use tablets or a kiosk, or you want to put your remote printers on the network. And then maybe you want to issue mobile credentials over the air. How can you handle all these different things? Obviously, desktop software can't handle that. So, you know, like I said, things cloud solutions may be able to solve. Another one, managing access rights. Like I just mentioned, moving from one res hall to another. What if your rights followed you by role or department or location, and you could assign and remove rights based on those changes, and you could centrally manage terminations. You know, somebody leaves your institution, you know, they take a new job at another university, they transfer. How can you get them out of all of your systems without having to go into each one of your systems to remove them individually? And then, like I said before, temporary identities, visitors, timed events. People come and go at certain times. They have access, other times they don't. You have conferences, academic conferences, summer programs. Lots of people come on campus, and we get a lot of requests. How can we manage these people? And oftentimes it's a, you know, it's not a, you know, highly funded program, but there's nothing in place on campus to manage all these people that are coming in for these short-term visits. And the last one, of course, a big deal, contractor management. We have talked to universities where there's often no vetting. They only give a name and they're handed an access card, and that's it. There's no way to know who they gave the card to. There's nothing in place to monitor that. So these are all ways of managing identity. The last one, I think, in this segment is mobile ID. There are many providers, several listed here, HID, SafeTrust, Allegiant, Wavelengths, that provide mobile IDs and readers, but they don't provide a way of actually managing those mobile IDs themselves. They provide the ID, they provide the secure communication to the cardholder that will receive the ID on their mobile device. They provision the readers, but they don't actually manage the identities themselves unless you're willing to do an awful lot of manual work, such as request a credential, issue a second credential number, or even if you have, let's say you have two different lock systems on your campus and you're going to use mobile apps. How are you going to manage two entirely separate applications, one for, say, Salto locks and the other for ASA Abloy locks? Can you manage those within an existing system? And then you need to send that card ID data to downstream systems. So this is all a very important part of identity management that we're just beginning to explore around mobile ID. Biometrics have popped up, gone away, popped up, gone away. It's kind of an interesting idea. We're wondering, is mobile going to overtake biometrics and biometrics goes away once and for all, or will biometrics gain a more important role? There's certainly a huge amount of interest in facial recognition, and the fingerprint readers introduced by Morpho have been quite popular. Iris, of course, is very accurate and is widely used at a number of schools. How do you manage those? Do you have to go out to a separate application to manage those identities, or is there a way that you can bring that into a central management platform? And then, of course, compliance, not just privacy, but also accessibility. Are your identity management applications able to handle all the requirements? They are not few. GDPR has heavy consequences. If you have any European people involved with your campus, they're governed by GDPR, and then those are being adopted by American people too. FERPA, HIPAA, WCAG for disability. It's just there are a lot of requirements, and the software to manage the identities in a way that complies with privacy and accessibility are not light. They're significant. So just quickly do a tour of a diagram. We've shared this before, but I broke it down into pieces. We talk about the identity management layer or the identity management application. It's in the cloud, and it's software, and it manages all these identities. So it's a database and an application on the database, and you get to it through a web browser because it's cloud-based. So it's web browser cloud-based software accessed through a web browser, and then the cloud connects to all your other databases. Data in, data out, student information system. Your ONECARD system can be managed. Identities can be managed for your ONECARD system from within the identity management platform, and then your access control system, which may be your ONECARD system. All of that data in, data out, coming out in and out of the management ID cloud software. And then when it's time to print, you can send that data to another cloud application. We're going to talk about FARGO Connect today. It sends it down to a console, which can print cards. There are other ways also that you can get data out of the cloud and print it. And then if another connected application could be mobile credentials, which are often generated and issued from another cloud. So when I talked about APIs, that is a really nice way that a lot of this connects. The identity management software connecting to FARGO Connect, connecting to a mobile credential portal, those would be API connections. Data goes over there. The credentials created, it's sent to a phone, usually by email invitation or directly to the app. And then that phone can be used on the right with all the different services that are supported back over here on the left from these databases. So ONECARD system, point of sale, shopping, maybe access control, PACS, physical access control system. That data, those systems got that data from the ID management solution. And so when you present your card or your phone to those applications, you will get the stuff you want from those services. Here's another diagram of essentially the same thing, only it's kind of upside down. This one puts the database of record on top, the identity management layer in the middle. But the point here is that you don't have to, but you could move your ONECARD system into the position, as with all your other systems, a consumer of identity data from the identity management platform. So let's talk about CardExchange Cloud. There are others we will talk about too, but we'll start here. The identity management layer from our previous diagram. The CardExchange Cloud Suite has 5 components. Controller is the primary database. It's in Azure, the Microsoft Cloud, and an application to manage identities. It provides reporting. Stand is a self-service portal, both a mobile app and it's available through a browser on a mobile phone and on a PC or Apple device. And here's where you can upload your photos, you can request credentials, it provides some ID proofing, it provides a mobile credential visually, and there is communication. Press is the client for creating cards, and it can encode and read contactless cards, no limit to how many Press clients you can use. Bridge are the connections between CardExchange Cloud and all your other systems. So you can do database connections, you can set up file transfers, but if you have the opportunity to use APIs and REST JSON webhooks are built into CardExchange so that when one database feature changes, then it alerts the other database time to check for an update. And an admin center where you can control a lot of the way that the application looks and the way it feels, and you can configure it using the admin center. The controller, it's in a light or a dark screen. I happen to screenshot a dark screen. You can see on the left, you have people, you have photos, you have the production process and reports, and there is a database, all the people, you look them up here. You search for them, you can filter, you can do advanced search by any of the parameters in the database, people with photos, people that don't have ID cards, however you want to search for them, you create them. When you want to look at any one person in there, you click on their entry, and here's all the data that you can store for any one person. So you have, if you notice, you have 15 free fields that can be relabeled, so you can store all the usual data and any more that you want. There's also address details if you want, and there are profiles, which are different. You know, you may have a student and you may have an employee, and they're the same person. Well, you might want two profiles for them with different access permissions or with different credentials. And over at the right are the credentials. And when you issue credentials, you're working with the main database here. You're working with CardExchange. So it knows all the credentials that were issued. This is the ColorID demo site, and you can see in here you can see, so I've done a lot of test credential issuance, and you can see on the timestamp there to the right. Some were activated, some were approved. Everything that has been done with my account in CardExchange Cloud is available and can be downloaded as a report. The controller workflow it's full featured. It can be simplified. So you create in the tabs at the top, you see you have a create tab where you create people, you bring them in from the database, you check their photo, you make sure there's a photo. If you need, you can capture a photo from this application using a webcam connected to your PC or tablet or any device you're using this in, because it's in a browser. Then you can approve them for production, which is usually a photo approval. From there, you can print. There's a print tab, which sends them to one of two clients we'll discuss today. And then if you want, you can approve them for issuance, and then you can activate them separately, or you can skip those steps. So if you have people who want to review the card, take them out of the printer, make sure it's all the way it should be before you activate it or before you approve it for issuance, you have the opportunity to do that. If the card, for example, didn't print well, you can deny it approved for issuance and send it back to the Create tab and reprint that card. So it gives you a lot of nice control that way. At the stand, which is the self-service portal, there are a number of features available here. Like I said, you can upload a photo, you can check your card status. It gives you a visual ID that looks like an ID card. It has a QR code with a timer that counts down, and also a little spinny globe thing, so you know it's not a screenshot. You can communicate with your people here through push notifications, and you can check your profile, you can report your card lost. A lot of good things going on in the stand. When people upload their photos, CardExchange has a nice photo approval process. It shows you the current photo and the last photo. And then it tells you if it thinks you should approve them based on the photos matching. So it gives you those side by side. Press is the native client for CardExchange Cloud. It is a Windows application. It's pretty similar to CardExchange Producer, which is a standalone ID software production software, but it is only connected to the CardExchange cloud. So you don't have to worry, because the cloud is what connects to everything else. And then Press only connects to CardExchange Cloud. So it makes it very simple setting up your templates. You can create your templates here. You can log in. You log in through the cloud. So it's your cloud credentials that enable you to log into CardExchange Press. So CardExchange Cloud knows who logged in and who printed what cards. That all is stored in CardExchange Cloud. And then this supports pretty much any printer made. And for encoding and reading contactless cards, it supports a wide range of types of printers also, because CardExchange just makes software. They don't make printers, so they have to support a wide number of printers. The admin center is in CardExchange Cloud, where you go to set your preferences and to configure how the application looks and how it works. It also has a dashboard, because people like dashboards, but it's quite robust. You can go in here, you can see on the left there all the different screens available to configure CardExchange Cloud. I'm not going to go into all that today, but it's pretty comprehensive. You can do a lot there. Who would be a candidate for CardExchange Cloud? Well, NYU. We have this nice diagram from them, or that we built for them. They have locations all around the world, and they want to centrally manage how cards are printed for those locations. So you can see in the middle there, CardExchange Cloud. They haven't completed the Origo integration yet for HID mobile credential, but it's in the queue. It will happen soon. They're using the end user portal, and you can see CardExchange is connected on the left there to the NYU ADA, which is their source of truth database for all their card data. So CardExchange in the middle there, and then it connects to FARGO Connect, and FARGO Connect, which I'll describe in more detail in a minute, manages printing at all the international locations. Another use case is a school in the western part of the country where there's a medical center and a university are linked, and they wanted one system to control the identities across both institutions. So the medical center is up and running. They had an HR badge issuance system they needed to replace. So they're using CardExchange Cloud now. Campus is just about to begin to implement CardExchange Cloud, the same cloud instance, but it'll be for campus. And it is possible to discriminate the two groups. So, or segregate, well, the words aren't good, but to separate the two groups. So the medical people on one side and the campus people on the other, if they want to do that. They can live in the same database, but because they will be identified as one or the other, they won't necessarily be available for viewing to the other group. So that's one of the things the institution has to figure out. Do they want to share everybody or just a few people? But it's an option, however they want to do it. And they have different credentials. So CardExchange Cloud, it will help them manage across the two different institutions in a way that they choose. I mentioned FARGO Connect. This is a cloud-based product from HID. Here's the excerpt from the large diagram I showed earlier, the gray cloud connecting to the console, and then 3 printers. And it really does allow you to print anywhere. Here's another diagram most of you have seen, I'm sure. FARGO Connect Cloud is in the middle. It is also hosted in Amazon. Amazon? I think so. Anyway, on the left, the Identity Partner Portal, I highlighted that because that will be the interface for FARGO Connect. So if that is your ONECARD system provider and they have done an integration with FARGO Connect, then that is where you will interface your cardholders and create print jobs that will be sent to FARGO Connect. You don't directly work with FARGO Connect to print cards. You can work directly with FARGO Connect in the upper left to design cards and for support and to check the consumables at all your different printers. And then at the bottom there, the local printing, you see the console, the little HID on a screen is a tablet, and that supports up to 3 printers. Here is a console in real life, and it is a touch screen, and you can choose any of these: print management, printer setup, support. This is a dedicated device built by HID just to support HID printers. It sits on the network. You plug an Ethernet cable into it. There is no Windows or any other kind of PC required here. Your print job is coming from your integrated partner, which could be CardExchange, or it could be your ONECARD system. And the print job is coming to FARGO Connect, and it hits the console, and then you have the option of either printing directly as soon as it hits the console, or using print release. And so you can have somebody come over. They have to review the print jobs. They can release them. They can tap a card to release them. They can enter a PIN to release them. You can secure this as much or as little as you want. It'll connect your printers via USB or Ethernet, and it will tell you everything that's going on with your printers because the driver is on the console. So, and you can also remote into the console virtually through the HID FARGO Connect web portal. And of course, it's connected to these consoles. You can look up the jobs there, and you can see on the dashboard what's going on, what's printed, is it printing now? We can explore in this dashboard, we can dig into the status of the printers and the consumable supplies, everything that's going on there. And like I said, there's a web card designer also. So your ONECARD system or CardExchange, if you're using their cloud or their on-prem solutions for ONECARD, you don't have to have a web card designer. That is built into FARGO Connect. FARGO Connect is integrated with these ONECARD systems at present: Atrium, CS Gold, Odyssey. TouchNet is working on it, we understand. So if you have those systems, FARGO Connect works with them right now, and there are a good number of schools that are using it right now. If you have access control systems that you're using to print your card, you have Secure and you're using it to print your cards, and you want to capture your card numbers, the Prox or CIOS or Desfire, and it's not going so well for you with Secure because it doesn't support your printer, look into FARGO Connect, because you could add FARGO Connect to Secure. It's integrated. You look people up in Secure, you send the print job to FARGO Connect, and if you have elected and set it up properly, then it can capture those ID card numbers and bring them back into Secure. Same with AMAG, S2, Genetec, and OnGuard. So very powerful printing upgrade right there, FARGO Connect. Let's go to CloudCard. So with CardExchange Cloud, we talked about identity management, and it included a photo upload service. It's built into CloudCard. You can use the stand. It works really well, but if you're looking to just capture photos and do it with a very elegant solution that works extremely well, has a lot of communication features, everything else is working okay for you, we really recommend CloudCard. Let's take a look at it here. So you can invite people either via single sign-on, so they come to a website, usually within your institution's firewall or login domain, or single sign-on, or you send them emails through uploading their email addresses to CloudCard, and they receive an invitation either on a PC or most likely on their mobile device. Please submit a new photo. Tap here to upload your photo. As soon as somebody clicks the link and they're looking at this screen in a browser on whatever device, this is a secure connection, and you are in the CloudCard site at that point. You are fully in the cloud, looking at it through a browser. And that browser window can be on any device. It doesn't matter because it's a browser. So you can upload your photo from anywhere. You also have the option in CloudCard to add some other communication features. You can have people upload preferred name or a shipping address, or you can have them select a location from, say, 5 locations where they would like to pick up their cards. These are all options within CloudCard. It has a lot of nice option features. Here's what the photo approval screen looks like in admin. You can see all the photos lined up here. You see in the center, the photo has a bar of color. So it's green, yellow, red. And this is put there by HelperBot, CloudCard's artificial intelligence photo processing feature. And so it has already rotated the photo and cropped it, and it has assessed it based on all the millions of decisions that HelperBot has made or watched people make in CloudCard. And so it's doing its best to crop and recommend photos that it thinks you would like. So green means you probably will like this. Yellow, maybe not so much. Gray means that was probably re-edited and it has to be reprocessed. And then if it has a red bar, then that means HelperBot recommends that you do not approve it. You probably don't want to handle that photo. So you can, once you've scanned down the screen, let's say you have a lot of greens, a couple yellows and a red, at the top, you can click a button that says approve all green. So you don't have to individually, you can just scan down, all the green ones look good, click the button, green approved, they all get an email, congratulations, your photo is approved. There's some nice features here at the bottom right hand of the screen. You'll see all of them have a thumbs up and a thumbs down, straightforward, accept, deny. The circle means reprocess with the arrow, and then to the right, the little landscape picture there actually will remove the background. So background removal is a really nice feature of CloudCard, and you just click that, and over the next few seconds, it will remove the background so that it then looks as clean as the 2 photos above it, just the outline of the person themselves. It's really accurate. It happens automatically on upload. It's a feature you elect to purchase. It's an add-on, but it's automatic during upload, and then you can also reprocess anybody. If for some reason somebody came through without having background removal, you can do it later on. CloudCard has the ability to upload a photo of a government ID, and then it presents that to you so that you can see the picture on the ID. You can look at the data. You can look at all the features of the ID and make sure, as well as you can visually, if you think that's a good ID and the photos match, then you can approve that photo for that person. So some just details about CloudCard. It's hosted in Amazon Web Services. You can get to it from a browser on any device, unlimited photo uploads. The updates to the cloud application happen in the cloud, and CloudCard updates regularly. They do a lot. They usually do it at night. It almost never interrupts service, but you log in and there's another cool feature. They're just working on it all the time. HelperBot processing and classification are awesome features. Background removal, an add-on. Supporting docs, which are the government IDs. Email templates are easily customizable, both for approval, denial, anything else you want to do. You can use a custom URL, so you can use your institution.edu. So the email communications are coming from there. The photo requests can be generated by single sign-on or manual or automatic import, and you can upload these by browser. You don't have to have an app to generate the photo requests. Photo downloads, automatic or manual. CloudCard will help you set up local software to upload and download photos if you need. And you can download them to a file folder or database, and they come in as ID number.jpg. So very, very normal ID processes. CloudCard's easy to work with. You have good control of your admin access by role and by user. The history and reports of everything CloudCard did are very accessible, and it goes up very quickly. Let's touch just briefly on another identity management platform. It has a little different orientation. This one, where security is really foundational to its creation. You can just see from the list on the right there, you can scan an encrypted QR code to provision the device. You can get your identities, whether all your different identities can be stored here. They can be verified through background services. This is a very good system that was designed for government and citizen IDs, but it would work well at a university. It also provides one-time password, OTP authentication. So if you're thinking of signing up with Duo or Okta, UNIFYIA MEETIDENTITY also offers a very secure one-time password authentication. It also offers PKI encryption for signature and encrypting emails and other communications. Very powerful security features. Manages the life cycle. Very good at verifying people at the beginning. This, with remote, it's like, well, we're looking at a photo of an ID, and I'm looking at a photo they submitted. Is that good enough for me to issue and provision a person in our database, issue an ID, or do I need more verification? UNIFYIA was built to answer those deeper security questions, especially around identity and identity management. So wrapping it up here, you watch all this, and as many times as we at ColorID go through this with various people from all kinds of institutions, the question is, well, what's it going to cost? And the reaction is, well, we got our desktop software. We bought it 10 years ago for, like $800, and we've used it for free ever since. You're right. You're absolutely right. But you lived with its limitations. You made ID cards. That's all you did. And anything you did beyond that was most likely with another application, either connected or in the background. Meanwhile, at universities, while you're using your ID softwares that you may have purchased with a credit card in the card office, which is wonderful. I mean, ColorID sold a lot of ID software that were put on credit card purchases, and just didn't require any oversight. We just need a new license, and boom, it happened. But in the background, the university maintained the ID production database, and the flags, triggers, business rules, and the reports. And there were feeds between systems because everything had to be handled by file transfer. And sometimes they were huge and they slowed down the network. They were hard to configure. And then while you had bought your ONECARD or your ID software with your credit card, the university licensed a ONECARD system database and paid for it every year, and paid for maintenance, and paid for the connection from that ONECARD system to your $800 ID software. So maybe that wasn't a card office expense, but it was a real expense to the institution. So that has been the model for a long time in card offices. When we look at these cloud services, we're looking at an entirely different model, both of providing the service itself and in the way it's paid for. So you're going to get way more functionality than the desktop and the hybrid solutions. And you can do all these things. You can print and encode mag stripes, read contactless cards, essentially unlimited connectivity to other systems, robust reporting, and you don't have to pay licenses per workstation. And you can have, with some of the systems, unlimited number of admins. So you get a lot more. You're not paying at this point, whether it's the card office or another group in the university, for an on-prem ID production database, for the actual server hardware itself, managing all the database daily life for card production, and then tying up your network with these slow feeds. So this stuff goes away, and you're not paying a fee necessarily for a ONECARD system for ID card production per workstation. You now have your own card office, and you have control of it. So for some people, this makes great sense. It will do everything they want. For others, there are some things we've talked about today that will work and others that will not, and that's great. Like I said, every university is unique, and they're complicated systems. And we still talk to lots of schools, healthcare organizations, even government agencies. They don't need all that. We just need to make cards. Great, desktop software still works. Card Exchange Producer, the same company that brings you Card Exchange Cloud, has been making Producer for years. It's on version 10. It offers a network version, which is not cloud, it's desktop software, but there's a central license and template management feature that's very nice. And you don't have to move templates from workstation to workstation. Everybody's managed logging in from a central location. Very light management software, but it handles things centrally. Assure ID also, very nice ID software. And if you are doing anything, especially with HID, contactless cards, CIOS, iClass, HID, DesFire, SE, Assure ID could be a very powerful tool for you. It can read all of those cards in line in any HID printer, and it can program numbers using those. So if you want to, you know, you have things a certain way, you're wondering what can we do differently. If you like the idea of your own card office, what would you do for identity management? If you weren't using your ONECARD system as the heart of the identity management in order to produce cards and manage all these different credentials, you could use Card Exchange just based on what we're talking about today. And there are others too. I mean, we just picked a few. Card Exchange Cloud Suite, great identity management built just for this. MEETIDENTITY, which is the UNIFYIA product that's mobile first, very, very secure. A little different approach, but also manages identities, life cycle, you know, cards issued at a certain time, replaced at a certain point, they come out of the system, all the other systems are notified. For card issuance, to go along with one of these suites, or maybe not, just you want a much better card issuance process, FARGO Connect, because it's integrated with Card Exchange Cloud Suite and it's integrated with all those other access control and ONECARD systems we mentioned a little while ago. Card Exchange Press goes with Card Exchange Cloud Suite. That's a one-off there. And if you're using MEETIDENTITY for identity management, MEETIDENTITY also has the ability to print. And online photo submission, if you're just looking to get photos in a better way, or you know, I mean, there are a lot of products out there. CLOUDCARD has really worked well. We're very impressed with the support and the improvements that they keep bringing to their product. Highly recommend that. If you're going in the Card Exchange direction, then Card Exchange Stand might make sense for you to take a look at that. So with all of that, I think pretty much covered the world as we see it at ColorID regarding cloud-based ID card solutions.
Thank you, David.
Are there any questions? Yeah, thanks, Mark.
It's good stuff, man. One thing that I wanted you to chime in on was, you know, the implementation timeframes for these services like CloudCard and Card Exchange Cloud Suite and FARGO Connect. Can you give like a high-level example of what a implementation, you know, would look like for those three things?
Yeah, absolutely. So the cloud itself, it's already there. It's running. It's turned on. You know, you just have to plug into it in the right way. CloudCard is very quick. And if you want to get CloudCard up and running next Monday, today is Tuesday, that would be no problem. Now, you wouldn't necessarily use the integrations for the upload and download. You could do manual, but you could be sending out invitations for photos by the end of the week. The integrations can add a week or two, usually a couple weeks, to get CloudCard integrated so that the data is flowing automatically and everything's working well there. But that's a very quick one. Card Exchange Cloud takes longer because there are just a lot more decisions to make. How do you want your interface to look? How do your the biggest questions are, how will you manage your data? And even when I gave a presentation on this at NACU in 2019, a topic like this, afterwards, a few people from card offices came up and they said, who will own this? And I said, well, you know, I guess it could be IT, but we're seeing IT move into the card office in a way, even in 2019, that it had not. So IT people come in, they set things up in the card office and the card office runs it. Or maybe it stays in IT property. You know, that is worked out with the institution, but excuse me, the bigger thing is how do you manage your data? If you've been, you have a file transfer from one database into your card production database, is that the best way? Is it the data you need? If you have the opportunity to move that in a different way, can you? So those kind of questions. And for example, like maybe let's say you're moving all your student information data to a cloud database. Well, now all of a sudden that file transfer to the card production database isn't really effective, and maybe you can do an API connection from the new SIS in the cloud to CardExchange Cloud. So these are kind of big questions, and depending on how long your institution takes to review its own processes, that will affect your implementation. But in terms of actually connecting data to CardExchange Cloud, turning it on and printing cards, a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. But we've seen it take months, not because of the implementation of the actual service itself, but because it's at this time that the institution says, are we doing it the best way? And is this a good time to reevaluate whether we should make some changes and do some things differently? And once that question comes up, sometimes that can add some time to the implementation. So Fargo Connect is pretty quick. That one, it just connects to an existing database through the integration, usually a week. You get your printers, however long that takes, hook them up, get them fired up, design your templates. The connection itself can happen within a week from the time it's scheduled. Often, depends, on the parties involved, but again, pretty quick stuff.
That's very good, Dave. And one thing to chime in on the Fargo Connect aspect is, we've all been dealing with these, printer long lead times and everything. So in some cases, folks could actually use the existing Fargo printers that they already have on site, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, whenever possible, if somebody wants to do that, we help them do that.
Yeah, definitely. And lastly, we got one more question here. In regards to Swift data and Pinwheel, where would something like that fit in to these applications?
Swift data I didn't mention it today. It has been in this kind of presentation in the past. It's a very nice solution. It's an on-prem database, but it's managed remotely. So it's kind of a hybrid that way. So today I was talking cloud and I left Swift data out. What Swift data does well is they have paid the money and done the integration with a lot of access control and other database systems. So if you're looking to connect systems and on-prem might make sense to you, Swift Data Pinwheel is the name of their service. It might be a way for you to go. We'd be happy to talk to you about that.
Outstanding, Dave. That's all I got. So thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. We really appreciate your time very much. Don't miss out on the next webinar. You can sign up at ColorID.com if you haven't done so already. See you all this Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great day, everyone.